Welcome to the Committee on the Board Administration and Education Finance. We will begin. Call to order with roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Appel? Here. Mr. Appel is present. Dr. Armstrong? Dr. Armstrong is present. Mr. Birkin?
Here.
Mr. Birkin is present. Mr. Castile? Here. Mr. Castile is present. Ms. Champagne? Ms. Champagne is present. Dr. Clark? Here. Dr. Clark is present. Mr. Harris? Here. Mr. Harris is present. Mr. Hollis? Mr. Hollis is not present. Ms. Holloway? Ms. Holloway is present. Ms. Mellarine? Ms. Mellarine is present. Mr. Morris? Here. Mr. Morris is present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. First item, please.
Your consent agenda is ready for approval, adding items 4.1, 5.1, 6.1, and 7.1.
Get a motion. Ms. Champagne, Mr. Harris. Consent agenda. Any discussion? Any objections? That passes. Next.
On page 32, item 5.2, consideration of LDOE contracts greater than $50,000. Recommendation is to approve.
Motion, Mr. Harris, Dr. Armstrong. Mr. Morris, you want to introduce?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Superintendent Brumman, did you want to kick this off, introduce your folks?
On which particular item is that?
Item 5.2.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have some contracts here greater than $50,000, doing a lot of good work. Would like to call out some of the STEM initiatives in place. And Mr. Morris, I know you've worked with members of our team a good bit on that, so you probably want to make a few comments there as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to call up Jamie Mixon and Dr. John Underwood from LDOE, please. Thank you, guys. So we had a lot of really engaging conversation this morning about school attendance and, you know, what are some of the proactive measures that we can take to attract our students to school, get them engaged, you know, in the educational process, help them to appreciate why education is relevant. So this particular program to me is a great example. So I want to recognize Dr. Underwood. He authored this grant that was awarded to LDOE. It's a $400,000 grant. So I want to pass it now to Dr. Underwood and ask him to elaborate just a little bit on the grant, student impact, and then I think we have 3 teachers also here that have some experience. I'd like to call them forward at the appropriate time. Just have them to share just briefly a little bit of the student impact and how this draws students to school, how they appreciate it makes education relevant. So, Dr. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. We were very lucky to apply for...
The chair's going to ask you to identify yourself and pull the microphone closer.
Sorry about that. Dr. John Underwood, Louisiana Department of Education, STEM and Computer Science Specialist. I am very excited to talk about our grant. We worked with the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine to create an innovative project with aquaponics as well as an environmentally controlled greenhouse. This will allow us to generate an open educational resource curriculum for grades 6 through 8, which means we will have a curriculum that can be shared on the department's website to all teachers in the state that will give them guidance that aligns with our science and math standards for middle grades, as well as connects to career occupations that can be carried over into the high school areas of aquaponics, aquaculture, as well as agriculture. And we are working with a group of teachers from around the state through the funds of this grant to do a virtually funded community of practice, which allows teachers from all regions of the state to participate. And as we do this, we'll be developing more resources that can be used to link the current middle school course that's in development with those at the high school level. We are very fortunate to be able to partner with a site in Livingston Parish where they have some folks that are going to come up and speak in just a moment and introduce themselves, and we'll be able to actually get a model of the environmentally controlled greenhouse, which allows us to regulate things like temperature, light, CO2, nitrogen levels, and be able to show that off for other schools to be able to modify and possibly build sites of their own. And finally, with Louisiana Sea Grant, we're building place-based educational trips that will be all regions of the state where students are able to simulate in labs certain experiences that they go to the field and collect data. This allows them to connect with the communities, the community occupations, and the needs of the different communities as they look at ways to engage with agricultural as well as environmental careers throughout our state.
Thank you for that summary. Hey, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask our teachers that were able to attend today to step up to the table and maybe share with us a little bit of what you're hearing from students about this type of approach to education. Please identify yourself for the record.
I am, did I get it closer? And I teach at Westside Junior High School in Walker. That's a Livingston Parish Public School. And this is my third year teaching aquaponics as an elective. I'm also a science teacher, so I do teach science as well. And we were chosen as the site for the greenhouse, so we can't wait to just share this with so many more students than just that one section. They're learning life skills, but they're also learning lots of different skills that they could take into different career paths.
Hi. I'm Laura Lee Edelman. I'm the teacher that Mr. Morris came to in the very beginning with starting aquaponics. I started teaching at Brookstown, so I was like, what, your guinea pig? But it's been a pleasure working with all of you, and I've met most of you at a white coat ceremony. I've been teaching for 8 years, aquaponics. It's totally different. I can tell you I do an evaluation in the beginning, a pre-test and a post-test, that the EBR Federation of Teachers and the foundation, I was a STEM fellow, they helped me to write. And what it does is it rates students' perceptions of STEM careers, what STEM is, their confidence in STEM skills, and their access to STEM careers. The students that, of course, now it's different because the program is huge at my school and all the students want to take it, but they usually come 5th grade not knowing what aquaponics is. It's a little different for me now, but prior to that, they have no clue what it is. And there was a 2% score the first time they took it. It's usually about the same percentage when they first come in. I think the highest it's been is 5%. And at the end of the school year, when you give it again, it's 100% interest. It started, not first year was 99%. One of the students said, no matter what you do, I love it, but I just want to do aquaponics. One of the students also could not read a couple of years ago. And this was before all these new programs that came out for aquaponics. And he said, Dr. Edelman, I've been to every library looking for something on aquaponics. He said, I just want something on aquaponics. Mr. Ronnie went and got Rebecca Nelson and Pade's book, where they came out with their own book and brought it to the student. And he had searched everywhere for something to read. And so when you have a student, and you have several that come in there and just totally find a love for one of the careers, you have the ability to implement engineering. You have all the science forms, data, math. These kids don't realize they're doing math until you finally say, look, you're doing math. This is what this person does. They think that science and STEM technology is just in the lab, and they get to, in class, they get concepts, but they're able to actually implement and do those concepts and apply them. And so it's been a great thing. It's been one of the most successful and productive things I've ever done, and I have 3 kids, so for me to say that is very a big deal. But if you could just see how they start off, all grade levels, 6th, 7th, and 8th. I have kids of all levels, traditionals, junior, magnet, gifted, 6th, 7th, and 8th, all in the same class, working together. And just the impact this makes is tremendous. And like I said, I always tell you this, I appreciate this opportunity that you've given me for the past 8 years.
I'm Justin Rayburn. I teach at Denham Springs Junior High. I teach horticulture and aquaponics. I've been teaching about 3 years, and been doing both horticulture and aquaponics those 3 years. The only thing I'll add to Dr. Edelman's, she's the guru amongst us, is the community outreach aspect of the program. The most common thing you hear from parents, we have a STEM night, they come visit the lab, the most common thing you hear is, we didn't have anything like this when we were in school. And so it adds aside from all the academic aspects of it, it adds the wow factor that brings the community together, it brings attention to the school, to the students, and as everyone here can attest, it makes the student, I call them little experts. They become experts in the field of aquaponics, and so when they are able to teach adults things about microbiology and plant growth, et cetera, it really builds ownership and confidence into their learning, and so it's a huge, huge aspect of it.
He offered every one of my tour guides that led him in the lab, showed him what we were doing, and a job when they graduate from high school. So I thought that was interesting.
Thank you guys for sharing. Also wanted to recognize Nicole Foster here, who's from the Kane Center, and I believe we have the West Side principal here as well. So want to recognize you, sir, and thank you, Chair.
You're quite welcome. So one question, you guys are growing rice in these labs? I'm an old rice farmer. That's it. Well, thank you very much for that. Very interesting, bringing people in and getting them excited. So thank you very much.
Actually, we're trying it in my lab in one of the smaller systems. We'd like to come see it and what it looks.
I would love to go. Thank you. Any objections on the motion? Seeing none, next item, sir.
On page 43, item 5.3, consideration of federal and state grants and allocations to LEAs, Type 2 charters, Type 5 charters, approved non-public schools and community-based organizations, competitive and other. Recommendation is to approve. The LDOE had updated some information on the backup on January 6th, and a handout has been distributed.
We have a motion, Dr. Clark, second, Mr. Harris.
Well, I'd like to make a recusal before we make the motion.
Okay,
for
I'm
the,
sorry.
For item 5.3, allocations from with Orleans Parish AEDs and CPR first aid kits, the NASA conference travel reimbursement, real-time access to literacy, and the special ed cameras maintenance. Thank you.
Got 'em?
Oh, Dr. Clark recuses. I apologize. Okay. So Dr. Armstrong moves, Mr. Harris seconds. Any objection? Seeing none, that passes. Anything else?
That concludes your agenda.
All right. Thank you very much.